The bridge of the Thalrani cruiser Celestial Dawn shuddered under another devastating barrage. Sparks cascaded from overloaded consoles as Captain Kaya Thorne gripped her command chair, her pale purple skin glistening with sweat beneath the emergency lighting. Her blonde curls, usually kept in military precision, now hung loose around her face as she surveyed the tactical display with growing dread. "Shields at 12%, Captain," reported Lieutenant Vex from the weapons station, his voice tight. With barely controlled panic, "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. We've lost main engines and 2/3 of our weapon arrays." Kaya's violet eyes tracked the swarm of Vortok raiders circling her wounded vessel like scavengers around dying prey. 8 ships against her single cruiser odds that would have been challenging even at full strength. But now, with her ship crippled and crew dying, it was a death sentence. "Casualties?" she asked, though she dreaded the answer. 43 dead, 67 wounded. Medical bay is overwhelmed." The young captain closed her eyes briefly, feeling the weight of every lost life. In her 28 years, she had never faced defeat, never backed down from a fight. The warrior blood of her ancestors demanded she go down fighting rather than beg for help. But looking at the faces of her surviving crew, barely adults, most of them, her pride crumbled. "Open all channels," she commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Emergency frequency, Captain?" Vex stared at her in shock. "You're not seriously considering broadcasting emergency signal on all frequencies?" Kaya announced, cutting him off. "To any vessel in range, including," she swallowed hard, "Earth ships." The bridge fell silent except for the groaning of stressed hull plating. Every Thalrani knew the story's humans were primitive, barely capable of interstellar flight. Certainly not worthy of respect from the proud warrior race, but desperation made strange allies. Minutes crawled by. Vortok ships held their positions, apparently enjoying the game of slowly bleeding their prey dry. Then, impossibly, a response crackled through the comm system. "Thalrani vessel. This is Commander Phoenix Blackwood of the Earth Defense Corps. I'm reading your distress signal and your tactical situation." The voice was calm, almost conversational, with an accent Kaya couldn't place. "Stand by for immediate assistance." "One ship," Vex whispered, studying the sensors. A single Earth fighter. Kaya watched her display as a sleek vessel, smaller than even their escort. Fighters blazed past the Vortok formation at impossible speed. The human pilot didn't hesitate, didn't call for backup, didn't even acknowledge the 8-2-1 odds. He simply opened fire. What followed defied everything Kaya knew about space combat. The human fighter moved like liquid lightning, rolling and diving through formations that should have shredded it instantly. His weapons fire was surgically shot, precisely placed to disable engines, destroy weapon systems, or trigger catastrophic chain reactions in enemy vessels. He's dancing," breathed the helmsman, watching the tactical display in awe. In 12 minutes, it was over. 6 Vortok ships drifted as expanding debris clouds. The remaining 2 were fleeing toward the system's edge, their engines smoking from glancing hits. That had clearly been intentional warnings rather than killing blows. The human fighter settled into the Celestial Dawn's hangar bay with casual precision. Kaya found herself smoothing her uniform and checking her appearance in the reflection of a darkened console of vanity that both surprised and annoyed her. Commander Phoenix Blackwood emerged from his fighter with a pilot's easy confidence. He was tall for a human, with dark hair and eyes the color of Earth's sky. When he smiled, removing his helmet, Kaya felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. "You called for help," he said simply, his gaze meeting hers without the deference she expected from a supposedly primitive species. "I showed up. That's what we do." The Celestial Dawn's repair bay hummed with activity as Thalrani engineers worked alongside Phoenix's maintenance drones. Kaya found herself making frequent inspections ostensibly to monitor progress, but truthfully to catch glimpses of the human commander who had saved her ship. Phoenix worked with easy confidence, his hands steady as he calibrated targeting systems and reinforced hull plating. Unlike her crew's rigid military bearing, he moved with fluid grace, occasionally whistling some Earth melody that somehow made the tedious repair work seem lighter Your ship's design is impressive, he commented, not looking up from a plasma conduit. These energy distribution networks are more efficient than anything we've developed. Kaya paused in her inspection, surprised by the genuine admiration in his voice. You understand Thalrani engineering? I make it my business to understand anything that might save lives. His eyes met hers, and she noticed flecks of gold in the blue, including the people I'm working with. Heat rose in her cheeks, an embarrassing response she hoped her pale, purple skin didn't reveal. The Vortok rarely retreat so completely. They'll be back with reinforcements. Then we'd better be ready. Phoenix sealed the conduit and straightened, his uniform showing honest work stains. Mind if I ask what you were doing in this sector? Pretty far from Thalrani space. Patrol mission. We've been tracking Vortok movements near the neutral zone. She hesitated, then added, what about you? Earth ships don't usually patrol this. Far out, I go where I'm needed. His smile was enigmatic. Besides, I was curious about the famous Thalrani military efficiency. Reputation didn't do you justice. That evening, Kaya found herself in the officers' mess with Phoenix, sharing a meal that bridged to worlds. He'd brought human rations something. Called coffee that was bitter but oddly appealing, and protein bars that tasted better than their appearance suggested. She offered Thalrani field rations in return, amused by his diplomatic attempt to hide his reaction to the spiced nerf grain. Tell me about Earth, she said, settling back in her chair. What's it like commanding alone? Phoenix stared into his coffee cup, his easy smile fading slightly. Lonely sometimes, command always is. But flying solo, ... double quotes, he shrugged. You make decisions fast, live with the consequences. No time for doubt. Yet you came when I called. No hesitation. Someone needed help. His gaze found hers again. That's enough. Most humans would have calculated the odds, called for backup, waited for orders. Most Thalrani would have died fighting rather than call for help. His voice was gentle, without judgment. Good thing we're not most people. Their conversation was interrupted by urgent chimes from the bridge. Kaya's communicator crackled to life. Captain, we're detecting multiple contacts approaching from Vector 7-7-Mark-4. Configuration matches Vortok scout ships. Phoenix was already moving, his relaxed demeanor shifting to predatory focus. How many, for ships, moving fast? I'll be in weapons range in 8 minutes. Kaya's mind raced through tactical options. Her ship was barely combat-ready, and Phoenix's fighter, while deadly, couldn't face 4 ships simultaneously. Can we run? Not with our engines? Phoenix was already heading for the hangar. But we don't need to. Your ship's got firepower. She just needs someone to dance with the wolves while you line up shots. That's suicide. He paused at the hatch, turning back with that infuriating smile. Trust me, Captain. I'm very good at not dying. The battle was a deadly ballet. Phoenix's fighter weaved between the Vortok ships like a needle through cloth, drawing their fire and attention while Kaya's gunners found their marks. When one enemy ship broke formation to flank the Celestial Dawn, Phoenix intercepted it with a maneuver that defied Physexa's spiraling dive that brought him within meters of the enemy's hull before unleashing a point-blank barrage that crippled their engines. Nix, you've got two on your tail, Kaya called out, watching the tactical display with her heart in her throat. I see them. His voice was calm over the cum, even as enemy fire lit up space around his fighter. Kaya, can you give me a crossing shot on the lead ship in 3 seconds? Targeting now. She didn't hesitate, trusting his judgment completely. The coordinated attack was flawless. Kaya's heavy plasma cannons caught the Vortok ship just as Phoenix's evasive maneuver brought him clear of the blast radius. The remaining enemy vessels, seeing half their force destroyed, broke off and fled. When Phoenix landed in the hangar this time, Kaya was waiting for him. As he climbed down from his fighter, she stepped forward impulsively and placed her hand on his arm. Thank you, she said simply, for everything. His hand covered hers, warm and steady. Thank you for trusting me. Standing there in the hangar, surrounded by the sounds of her crew securing the ship, Kaya realized something had fundamentally changed. This human, this supposedly primitive warrior from a backwater world, had saved her ship twice now. More than that, he'd earned something no outsider had ever claimed, her complete trust. And perhaps, she admitted to herself as she looked into his eyes, something more dangerous than trust. The emergency beacon's shrill warning cut through the bridge's quiet efficiency. Kaya's fingers flew over her console, analyzing the incoming data with growing concern. "Massive fleet movement," reported Lieutenant Vex, his voice tight. "At least 30 Vortax ships converging on our position. They'll be here in 6 hours." Phoenix, who had been studying navigation charts at the tactical station, looked up grimly. "They're not taking any chances this time. That's a full battle group." Kaya's mind raced through their options. The Celestial Dawn was combat-ready now. But against 30 ships, even with Phoenix's support, they wouldn't last 10 minutes. Nearest Thalrani reinforcements? 14 hours out? Minimum. Earth forces. Phoenix shook his head. "My squadron's engaged in the Arcturus sector. We're on our own?" "There's Kepler 4 to see," offered the navigation officer, indicating a moon on the display. "Uninhabited, mostly rock and ice, but it has a breathable atmosphere. Could shut down all systems. They might not detect us. It was their only chance." 3 hours later, the Celestial Dawn settled into a hidden canyon on the desolate moon's surface. Her hull masked by rocky overhangs, and her systems powered down to minimum levels. Kaya and Phoenix established a small camp outside the ship, where they could monitor space traffic without risking electronic detection. The moon's twin suns had set, leaving them under a canopy of unfamiliar stars. Phoenix had managed to coax a small fire from gathered wood, a skill that impressed Kaya more than his piloting prowess. There was something primal and appealing about his ability to create warmth and light from nothing. "Tell me about your family," Kaya said, settling beside him on a makeshift log seat. The fire cast dancing shadows across his face. Highlighting the strong line of his jaw, Phoenix poked at the flames with a stick, his expression growing distant. "Not much to tell. Military family, father was Navy, mother was Marine Corps. Lost them both in the Proxima raids when I was 19. I'm sorry." The words seemed inadequate, but his smile was genuine. "They'd be proud, I think." Gad. "Always said the measure of a person isn't how they handle victory, but what they do when everything goes wrong." He looked at her meaningfully. "What about you? What's a Thalrani captain's life like when she's not fighting impossible odds?" "Duty, honor, service to the collective." The words felt hollow somehow, rehearsed. "I've commanded ships since I was 24. Never questioned it. Never wanted anything else." "Never wanted a family? Someone to come home to?" The question hit deeper than she expected. Thalrani officers rarely form attachments. It's seen as a weakness, a distraction from duty. "That's a lonely way to live," says the man who flies. "Solo missions across the galaxy." Phoenix laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Touché, maybe we're both running from something." "What are you running from?" He was quiet for a long moment, staring into the flames. "Connection, maybe. It's easier to risk everything when you don't have anything to lose." And now, their eyes met across the fire, and Kaya felt the air between them change, charged with possibility and danger. "Now I'm not so sure." Without conscious thought, she moved closer, drawn by something she couldn't name. Phoenix reached out, his fingers tracing the line of her jaw with gentle curiosity. "Your skin," he murmured. "Beautiful, like lavender silk." "We're different species," she whispered, but made no move to pull away. "So," his thumb brushed across her lower lip. "Different doesn't mean wrong." When he kissed her, it was soft and questioning, giving her every chance to retreat. Instead, she deepened the kiss, her hands fisting in his uniform as 7 years of rigid self-control crumbled. He tasted like coffee and starlight, like adventure and coming home all at once. They made love under the alien constellations, their bodies finding a rhythm as natural as breathing. Kaya had never experienced such tenderness combined with passion. Wei Phoenix worshipped every inch of her skin, murmuring words of wonder and desire against her throat. When she cried out his name, the sound echoed off the canyon walls like a prayer. Afterward, they lay entwined by the dying fire, her head on his chest, as his fingers traced lazy patterns on her shoulder. "What happens now?" she asked, voicing the fear that gnawed at her contentment. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I know I don't want this to end. My people will adapt. Mine too." His arms tightened around her. "The galaxy's changing, Kaya. Maybe it's time for something new." A dawn came too soon, bringing with it the harsh crackle of long-range communications. The news that followed made their blood run cold. A massive Vortog fleet was moving toward Earth's space, not just raiders this time, but a full invasion force. "I have to go," Phoenix said, already reaching for his clothes. "My people I know." Kaya touched his face, memorizing every detail. "We both have our duties." But as they broke camp and prepared to return to their ships, both knew that duty and desire were about to collide in ways that would test everything they'd discovered about each other and themselves. The space above Earth blazed with weapons fire as the largest battle in human history raged across three-dimensional combat zones. Kaya stood on the bridge of the Celestial Dawn, now part of a hastily assembled fleet of human and Thalrani vessels, watching the tactical display with grim determination. "Vortog main fleet holding position at Luna's orbit," reported Vex, his voice steady, despite the chaos around them. 47 capital ships, over 200 fighters. They're using Earth's moon as a shield." Phoenix's voice crackled over the cum from his fighter, leading a mixed squadron of human and Thalrani pilots. "They're smart forcing us to come to them. Can't use heavy weapons with civilian populations below." Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main screen from the human flagship Resolute. "Captain Thorne, your ship's long-range scanners are picking up something our sensors can't resolve." "What are you seeing out there?" Kaya studied the readings, her blood running cold. "They have a second wave. 30 ships holding position behind Jupiter's magnetic field. They're masked from our sensors." "A trap," Phoenix said grimly. "They want us to commit everything to the main battle, then hit us from behind when we're exhausted. Can we warn the fleet in time? Not all of them." Kaya's mind raced through tactical possibilities. "But if we can break through their screening force, get behind their lines, ... Suicide mission," Admiral Chen said bluntly. "Your ship alone against their rear guard?" "Not alone." Phoenix's fighter peeled away from his squadron, taking position alongside. "The Celestial Dawn?" "I'm with her." "Thanks now," Kaya protested. "Your squadron needs you. My squadron needs the fleet to survive, and the fleet needs to know what's coming." His voice was calm, but she could hear the determination beneath it. "Besides, we work well together." The run through the Vortag lines was a nightmare of plasma fire and exploding ships. Kaya pushed her cruiser beyond safe limits, engines screaming as they weaved between enemy vessels. Phoenix flew point, his fighter carving a path through the defensive formations with surgical precision. "Hull breach on Deck 4, reported the damage control officer. "Sealing emergency bulkheads. Shields at 30% and falling," added Vex. "Almost through," Phoenix called out. "Can see the secondary fleet." "Kaya, you need to break off. Get that information back to Admiral Chen." "What about you?" "I'll keep him busy. Give you time too." His words cut off abruptly as enemy fire found his fighter. Kaya watched in horror as Phoenix's ship spun out of control, trailing plasma and atmosphere. "Nix, status report. Engines gone. Life support failing." His voice was strained but controlled. "Going to ram their command ship. Try to disrupt their..." "No." The word tore from her throat before she could stop it. On the bridge, her crew stared at their captain with shock as she abandoned all pretense of military composure. "Hold position. I'm coming for you, Kaya. The mission can wait." She turned to her helmsman. "Plot intercept course with Commander Blackwood's position. All power to engines." Captain Vex protested. Admiral Chen's orders were specific. "We're to report the secondary fleet's position, and I don't care about orders." Kaya's voice rang with authority and something deeper, fierce protectiveness that transcended duty. "I'm not leaving him behind." The rescue was a desperate gambit. Using the Celestial Dawn's tractor beam, Kaya managed to snare Phoenix's crippled fighter just as Vortak reinforcements closed in. Her ship took devastating damage in the process hull breaches on multiple decks, main engines offline, weapons, systems failing. "Got him," she announced, as Phoenix's fighter settled into the hangar bay. "Now get us out of here." "Captain, engine's dead. We're drifting." The Vortak ships closed in, sensing wounded prey. This time, there would be no miraculous escape, no last-minute rescue. Kaya stood on her bridge, holding Phoenix's handhead, made it to the command deck, despite his injuries. Instead, space erupted with human and Thalrani ships. The combined fleet, warned by Kaya's earlier transmission, had arrived just in time. The Vortak's secondary fleet, caught between the moon's defenses and the incoming reinforcements, found themselves trapped. "All ships, concentrate fire on the enemy command vessel." Admiral Chen's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Let's finish this." The battle was decisive. Caught between two forces and deprived of their surprise advantage, the Vortak fleet crumbled. Those ships that could fled toward the outer system. The rest became expanding clouds of debris, testament to the courage of beings who had chosen to stand together. Later, the medical bay as they recovered from their wounds, Kaya and Phoenix lay side by side, their hands intertwined. "You came back for me," he said wonderingly. "You risked everything, your ship, your crew, the mission. Some things are worth the risk." She turned to face him, her violet eyes bright with unshed tears. "I couldn't lose you, Nix. Not when I had just found you. The regulations will have to change." Her smile was fierce and beautiful. "The galaxy's evolving, remember? Time for something new." Outside their medical bay window, human and Thalrani ships flew in formation, their crews already working together with the easy cooperation of old allies. The future, Kaya realized, was being written in the stars themselves. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Kaya stood in the conference room aboard the Joint Command Station orbiting Luna, watching political representatives from a dozen worlds argue about the implications of interspecies relationships in the military. Through the viewport, she could see the construction scaffolding of the new integrated fleet human and Thalrani ships being built side by side. "The precedent is dangerous," insisted Counselor Vrex, his purple skin darker than Kaya's, marking him as old-line Thalrani nobility. "Military efficiency requires discipline, not emotional entanglements." Emotional entanglements. Kaya kept her voice level, though her temper simmered beneath the surface. "Now, is that what you call the tactical coordination that saved Earth?" Captain Thorne interrupted Admiral Chen, his expression diplomatically neutral. "The Council isn't questioning your combat effectiveness, but there are complications when command officers become personally involved." Phoenix, who had been quietly reviewing fleet deployment reports, finally looked up. "Complications like the fact that our joint operations have a 94% mission success rate, or that recruitment applications from both species have increased 300% since the integration program began." "Commander Blackwood," Counselor Vrex's tone was frosty. "Your personal relationship with Captain Thorne is none of your business," Kaya interrupted, her patience finally snapping. "What matters is results, and our results speak for themselves." "Do they?" Admiral Chen pulled up a holographic display. "Because I'm looking at a proposal for a deep space exploration mission that would put you and Commander Blackwood in joint command of a mixed crew for 18 months? Some might see that as ... convenient." Phoenix stood, his movement fluid despite the slight limp from his injuries. "Admiral, with respect, you're the one who requested us specifically for this mission. Something about needing officers who understand both species' capabilities." "The mission brief is solid," Kaya added, activating her own display. "Long-range reconnaissance into the Andromeda spiral arm." The Vortak didn't attack randomly. They were running from something. "We need to know what." The debate continued for another hour, but Kaya could see the inevitable conclusion. Political necessity would win out over personal prejudice. The galaxy was changing too fast for old attitudes to survive. That evening, Kaya found Phoenix in his quarters aboard the station, packing gear for their upcoming mission. She stood in the doorway for a moment, simply watching him move about the small space with characteristic efficiency. "Penny, for your thoughts?" she asked, using one of his human expressions. He looked up, smiling at her use of the idiom. "Just thinking about tomorrow. New ship, new crew, new frontier." He paused, studying her face. "Any regrets? It's about us? Never?" She moved into his arms, feeling the familiar warmth of his embrace. "About the politics, the meetings, the bureaucracy, ... It's another matter." 18 months alone in deep space, he murmured against her hair. "Think we'll get tired of each other? Only one way to find out." She pulled back to look at him, her expression serious. "Nix, what we're doing, it's bigger than just us. The crew we're taking, humans and Thalraini, working together, writing the template for the future, no pressure there." His smile was rueful, but warm. "Good thing I perform well under pressure."
A good thing we both do.
Later, as they lay together in the darkness, Phoenix traced the curve of her shoulder with gentle fingers. "Kaya, I love you." The words were simple, but they carried the weight of everything they'd been through together. "Whatever happens out there, whatever we find in the dark between stars, I want you to know that." She turned in his arms, her violet eyes catching the starlight from the viewport. "I love you too, more than I ever thought possible. Even though I'm just a primitive human." The teasing note in his voice made her smile. "Especially because you're human. You showed me there's more to strength than rigid discipline, more to honor than following orders." She kissed him softly. "You showed me that some rules are worth breaking." Their lovemaking that night was tender and fierce, a celebration of everything they'd overcome and everything yet to come. When they moved together, it was with the perfect synchronization of partners who trusted each other completely in battle. In bed, in life, dawn brought the bustle of departure preparations. The crew of the UTS Harmony, their new ship bearing designation codes from both fleets assembled in the hangar bay, boardy beings, human and Thalraini, who would spend the next year and a half exploring the unknown together. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored colleagues," Kaya addressed the mixed crew, her command voice carrying clearly across the space. "We're embarking on a journey that will take us farther from home than any of our species have traveled before. Face challenges none of us can imagine, but we face them together." "The galaxy is changing," Phoenix added, stepping up beside her. "Old boundaries are breaking down. New alliances are being forged. We're not just explorers. We're ambassadors for a new way of thinking." As the Harmony powered up her engines and turned toward the outer system, Kaya stood on the bridge beside Phoenix, their hands briefly touching at the rail. Through the viewports, stars stretched toward infinity, full of possibilities neither of their species had ever dared imagine. "Ready for this?" Phoenix asked softly. "With you? Ready for anything?" The ship leaped into hyperspace, carrying its mixed crew toward unknown stars and an uncertain but promising future. Behind them, human and Thalraini ships continued their joint patrols, protecting worlds that had learned to trust each other. And in the depths of space, two hearts beat in perfect synchronization, proof that some boundaries were meant to be crossed.